Well, welcome to part 3 of our 4-part study. We're about to examine the first of two great events in detail that may launch the world into its final days before the return of Jesus Christ to planet Earth. Now, I believe that most of us can agree that we live in extremely troublesome times. Islamic terrorists have created an environment that makes the world a very unsafe place to live. The problems they are causing the civilized world will only be solved by God's direct intervention and destruction of these evil extremists. Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 describe this war in which God himself will bring down Russia and the Islamic nations of the world. Now let's review the key messages that we will be covering in this session. What is the rapture? And who is considered to be a true believer in Jesus Christ? And who is not considered to be a true believer in Jesus Christ? The rapture will change the world's political landscape in spheres of influence. So where's the U.S. in Bible prophecy? It is extremely interesting that when you search the scriptures, you cannot find any mention of the U.S. in Bible prophecy. Yet nations such as Persia, which is modern-day Iran, and numerous other Middle Eastern and African nations are identified as key players in God's plan for the last days. Russia, while not spelled out as Russia in the scriptures, is clearly identified through its distinct geographic location from Israel to be a key player in the events of the end times. Historians have verified this fact through the ages, that the country to the extreme north of Israel, referred to in Ezekiel 38 verse 15 and chapter 39 verse 2, is modern-day Russia. And we'll spend more time on this war in our next briefing. So what is the rapture? In 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 13 to 19, and again in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 51 to 58, the Bible describes the rapture as follows. And now, dear brothers and sisters, I want you to know what happens to a Christian when he or she dies, so that when it happens, you will not be full of sorrow, as those who have no hope, the unbelievers. For since we believe that Jesus died and came back to life again, we can also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him all the Christians who have died. I can tell you this directly from the Lord, that we who are still living when the rapture occurs will not rise to meet Jesus Christ ahead of those whose bodies are still in the grave, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a mighty shout, and with the soul-stirring cry of the archangel and a great trumpet call of God. And the believers who have died and whose souls are in heaven and bodies are still in the grave will be the first to rise to meet the Lord. Then we who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air and remain with him forever. Now this will all happen in the twinkling of an eye, and this is even faster than a blink. So comfort and encourage each other with this great news. I believe many of you in this session today may be alive when the rapture happens, and those of you who have accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior will experience the rapture and you'll miss death. Those who have not will enter the period of the 7-year tribulation if you're still alive when it begins. If you're among this group, then it will be possible for you to obtain salvation during the tribulation, but at the probable cost of your life. The Antichrist will persecute and kill most of the people that become Christians during the tribulation. Now, for those that follow the Antichrist and take the mark of the beast, they are destined to spend all of eternity in the eternal lake of fire and brimstone. So I encourage you that are here today and have not accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, that you settle this matter with the Lord as soon as possible. Now, the rapture will be the most significant event of our lifetimes. It will literally change the political landscape of the world. Imagine the chaos that will occur when as many as 100 million people disappear without notice across the United States, and perhaps as many as 1 billion people disappear across the entire world. What will the world be like without any Christians? The world will enter the greatest economic depression of all times after the rapture occurs. Government and businesses will literally shut down. Law and order will turn to anarchy in most nations, especially those with large Christian populations. Countries like the U.S. will no longer be a superpower. Non-Christian nations will immediately take advantage of this to gain power. The situation created by the exodus of so many people from the world will open the door for the most charismatic leader of all times to assume control of the world, the soon-coming Antichrist. In the meantime, countries like Russia and the Arab coalition of nations will take advantage of the world power changes to attack Israel, and the U.S. will no longer provide military support and protection to Israel after the departure of the Christians from the world. The European Union, China, and other nations of the world will not interfere in this forthcoming Russian Islamic coalition war with Israel. Our picture on this slide provides you with the sequence of events that will occur after the rapture. Now let's briefly pause for any questions and discussions before we move on to the second great event that will change the world's political landscape, and that's the upcoming war between Russia and the Islamic coalition of nations.